Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we'll be having a box office breakdown for this past weekend, which saw the third weekend of The Batman, and it had another strong hold, only dropping around 45% from its second week of release, so doing very strong. In fact, hitting and surpassing the $300 million mark domestically, so very impressive numbers there. Also getting incredibly close to $600 million internationally. We'll talk about what that means for the film, not only having passed and surpassed the break-even number as of just the last couple of days, but also how much actual net gain profit it's looking at this point in time, and what we can expect from the film going further, and also how incredible and how incredibly well a Crunchyroll anime is doing as well this weekend in the domestic market. That is, of course, Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which many of you have said is a show worth checking out. I know it's available on HBO Max, that first season. So definitely something that is on my radar. Getting a very strong start and coming in at number 2 in competition with some other films that are also just coming out. So American releases that are getting their first week of release, and also going up against the 4th, 5th, 6th weekends of some other major American films. So either way you look at it, this Jujutsu Kaisen 0 doing incredibly well. We'll also give a comparison between this and the other major anime film that came out last couple years, Demon Slayer, and we'll see how well this film is doing in comparison to that one as a good metric. Before going any further, though, into these numbers, please make sure that you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification on. That way you know every time a video or live stream goes live on the channel. So hopefully I'm able to get through all of this and get it uploaded, as I mentioned in my Geeks and Gamers video, which will be up either around the same time or a little before, a little after, depending on how things are going. Obviously, there's a whole team with Geeks and Gamers, and so sometimes it can take very quickly, sometimes it can take a little bit of a while, especially since they have to actually create real thumbnails, whereas for me, I just am so terrible at thumbnails in general. So I am currently watching, Baby Thor on the monitor, so if he wakes up, it could have an impact. You might see some cuts because of that very reason, but right now, he's doing okay. But as we look at this story from Deadline, Batman hits $300 million in the domestic marketplace. Crunchyroll anime Jujutsu Kaisen starts off with $17 million as of this weekend, and really that is one of the more impressive stories in a weekend without major studio-wide releases. Crunchyroll's anime prequel, so a prequel to their series, is providing cash to exhibition on Friday, including previews. It did $8.7 million, and the person was informed that it made $5.4 million on Saturday for a solid $17.7 million start, which means that number probably will go up if he's only having the Friday and Saturday numbers and not including anything from Sunday. It'll be very interesting to see there. It says it's 17% under the 21.2 opening for Funimation's Demon Slayer, which came out last April. The box office analytics firm Intelligence reports that 1.3 million people bought tickets to Jujutsu Kaisen, whereas for Demon Slayer, the first weekend drew in 1.6 million, so very, very close there. Obviously, 300,000 is still a lot of people as far as the difference is, but percentage-wise, very close nonetheless. So Jujutsu Kaisen able to not only bring out probably a lot of the same people that went to go see Demon Slayer, but also potentially being able to bring out others as well in this weekend that is still, of course, dominated by The Batman, which came in at number 1 to no one's surprise, with a third weekend of $36.8 million domestically, making it a 45% drop and bringing this film over the $300 million mark in the domestic place. And so, again, very strong showing there. 45% drop, very strong showing. Jujutsu Kaisen, as you see, $17.6 million, coming out at over 2,000 screens, so definitely had a lot. Funimation was able to secure a large amount of screens for a film like this and had a very good per theater ratio there, $7,700 per theater. And when you compare that to even the Warner Brothers release of The Batman, which is still at over 4,000 screens, and also made twice as much this weekend, and you see that those numbers are actually very close. So a very strong showing there. I will say as a caveat, though, I won't be able to really make a lot of projections as far as Jujutsu Kaisen is concerned, because it already had its full release in Japan, and it's released in other countries. So the methods and the metrics that I use to determine how much money a film can make really don't come into play here. What I can do over time, though, is if they eventually release an actual budget for this film, is go into how much money this film was actually able to make. And if it's anything similar to what Demon Slayer cost to make, then this film is already at the point of profitability and raw net gain profits. Uncharted came in at number 3, making another $8 million, another strong showing here, another small drop in this market. This film also surpassing its break even, starting to make a little bit of cash on the side. New movie X from A24, a horror film based on the premise, not a film that I really care to see at all, but 4.4 million at just around 2,800 screens. So again, not doing terrible as far as its per screen number, but 4.4 million, depending on what the budget is. I can't imagine that it's too high, as A24 typically can make lower budget films, especially of the horror genre, and usually make their money back. So we'll see how much money this film makes domestically, if it releases at all internationally, and what countries it does, and if they actually do eventually release a budget for the film. Dog coming in and rounding out the top 5 here, dropping just one spot from last week, here making another $4 million, another 21% drop, so still holding off pretty strong, doing really well, 54.2 million domestically. So this is a film, didn't cost a lot to make, isn't making a crap ton of money, but in comparison to its budget, doing quite well. Spider-Man No Way Home as well, holding on very strong, $3.2 million, still being out after 14 weeks, still making over $3 million. Very, very impressive, especially when you compare this to other films that have not been out for nearly as long of a time. Death on the Nile came in at number 7 with $1.7 million. A little bit of a high drop here compared to previous weeks, but again, because it had a strong, or rather because it had not so strong a start, had a very weak start 6 weeks ago, it is still at the point of it just not making any money whatsoever. The Outfit is another new release from this week from Focus Features, coming out at just around 1,300 screens. This is actually one I am very interested in going to see. It only made around $1.5 million, so that per screen is not terrible, but we don't have a budget for it, so it's hard to say whether or not the film is in any financial problem or any financial issues potentially that could happen from it. But $1.5 million, not the strongest of starts, especially with a film that does feature I think, and I would argue, a pretty solid cast, and one that I hope that I can check out as spring break is ending, and hopefully can check out in the beginnings of our fourth quarter here. Can't believe we've just starting the fourth quarter here as a teacher. It's just insane how quickly all of this has flown by. You also have another new film, The Kashmir Files, which I know very little about, but again, very limited release. Sing 2 rounding out the top 10 with $1.4 million, an 8% drop. This film, again, little engine that could, 13 weeks of release, and still showing up the way that it is. Cyrano looks like is not going to be getting any other theatrical releases because it's dropped out of 388 screens, and it was not out on many screens whatsoever, and apparently they've given up on it at United Artists, and so this film, we can say, is definitely a flop, as the same we can say with Marry Me as well. There was another new release that came in at the number 11 spot, which is Uma. I mistakenly had said that this was a South Korean film, even though it features Korean immigrants. It is an American horror film, but it being at only 805 theaters, I don't know exactly what their game plan is financially, because I know some people say, why do you talk about money so much for success? Well, here's the thing. Even though how much money a film makes does not say whether or not a film is good or not, whether a film is worth seeing or not, it does merit, and it does indicate how financially successful a film is. And no matter how you spin it, even if you make a film, quote, for art, if you put your money into a film and that film is seen, but then no one wants to go see it, and then you end up being in the red because no one went to go see it, that is not a good thing. Doesn't mean your film is bad, but it does mean that your film is a flop. It does mean that your film is a financial failure. And so that's why these numbers do matter, because especially if it's a newer production, a newer director, an original film, if it doesn't do very well, what that says to any investor is, okay, this is the type of film that doesn't make any money, and so we're not going to invest in this film again, and that's a big problem. Also, it goes on as well to tell other people, right? If you like a franchise, for instance, if that film doesn't do well, doesn't make its money back, that tells the big studios, okay, this is a film that's going to cost us a lot of money, and therefore we're not going to make any more. So that's the reason why these numbers are important. It doesn't say whether a film is good or bad, but it does indicate that financial success, which is incredibly important. Speaking of financial success, the Batman is indeed financially successful. Its break-even point was $500 million, and it has surpassed that by quite a bit. Again, it's broke that number within the last couple of days as those numbers began to update. Now at $598 million here at a $200 million budget, that means that this film is now making a bit of profit, to say the very least. But of course, the big story of the weekend is not necessarily the impressive numbers still coming from the Batman, but it's actually coming from this little anime film right here, Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which, as you can see, it made $17.6 million domestically. However, as I said, this is a film that's already seen a release. Most of this film getting its money from Japan, where it had its initial release, up to $147.5 million. And so because there is yet no budget released for this film, and also because of the nature of this film being released when it was, I can't really make a lot of projections and predictions as far as how well or not well the film is going to do. But what I can do is put this up against a film that came out last year. So, of course, Demon Slayer, the movie, Mugen Train, this is one that a lot of people also had a lot of excitement about. This is a film, though, we can say, based on the report here from the numbers, cost around $15.7 million and ended up making worldwide $503 million. So it'll be interesting to see how much money Jujutsu Kaisen can make. I don't necessarily think it's on pace at this point to do as well, though it is being given a lot better as far as opening weekends are concerned compared to where Demon Slayer was. I think this is the reason why is because people did not expect this film to do nearly as well, so they put it out at just around 1,600 screens, and I think because it had such a strong opening here domestically, that is when they eventually bumped it to more screens. And as you can see, the actual domestic opening weekend was a lot stronger than they thought. It made $22.7 million, which is higher than the number we see here for Jujutsu Kaisen. We do see that the total domestic box office got up to 47.5, which during the year 2021 for a film like this, very impressive number to say the very least. We'll see, of course, over time if that film, Jujutsu Kaisen, is able to get anywhere near that. Probably won't be able to surpass it, but hey, we'll be following those numbers. Internationally, though, that is where Demon Slayer was able to shine, making $455 million, being one of the highest, if not the highest grossing film in Japan's history, at least for anime films. I remember there was a lot of stories, and I remember covering that a lot, and this was really kind of that first indicator of why the box office pandemic narrative really just did not work and really did not hold any water, because this film was breaking records during this time. And I think that that is one thing that we have to look to say, okay, how can we argue that the box office is being negatively impacted in a universal way, and that people are refusing to go see films just because they're afraid, even though the fear-mongering was very strong, when people were willing to go out, not just internationally, but domestically, to go see films like Demon Slayer. And we also see something similar here with Jujutsu Kaisen as well. And what shows us is a film probably with a comparable budget, I would imagine, is going to be able to do really well, make its money back, and, give the idea then to Funimation to say, okay, this is a property that's well worth continuing to invest in and to continue, and that's really what it comes down to. If a film's not able to do that, if a franchise is not able to do that, well then that's when they pull the plug on those types of projects. So again, huge shout out to Jujutsu Kaisen there. Again, not doing as well as what we're seeing from Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer really was kind of this amazing film as far as, again, not as, actual film itself. I haven't seen that film yet, but from a box office standpoint, just this, again, pretty amazing performance that it was able to pull out in this capacity. When you compare the opening weekends, as you can see, Mugen Train did make more, so it made $9.5 million versus the $8.6 of Jujutsu Kaisen, 6.4 on the first Saturday versus the 5.4, and they're projecting that the first Sunday for Kaisen will be 3.5, whereas it was 5.1 million on its first Sunday. And so, as you can see, there was a very limited release. It was only out for about a few weekends before it eventually went away. So we'll see if this one lasts a little bit longer, since this one right here, Kaisen, is out in more theaters compared to Demon Slayer. So we'll see if that makes it last a little bit longer, if it's able to get itself a little bit closer to that domestic number. But it'll be one that's worth talking about. I know that a lot of people on the channel are very interested in animes, and so I wanted to make sure to dedicate some time to this before going into the other films. The new movie X, which apparently did well on the independent film circuit, the film festival scene, Again, the basic premise right here, 1979, a group of young filmmakers set out to make an adult film in rural Texas. Again, no care for that whatsoever. Doesn't really seem like my cup of tea. Made $4.4 million domestically, but no production budget being mentioned. Hard to say whether or not it will be a success financially or not. The film Dog, $61.4 million, again, broke even a while ago at this point, about a month ago, and so it's continuing just to add on net gains and profits. Spider-Man No Way Home, this is one, of course, I know a lot of people are still excited about as it's being released on physical media. I'm personally really excited for the Blu-ray, the 4K Steelbook release of it, because it looks pretty cool, and this is definitely a film that I think is worth owning, just to try to get access to some of those behind the scenes with Tobey Maguire and also Andrew Garfield, and just to see what it was like for them, and just maybe to get some interviews. Hopefully, I'm hoping that they have interviews on there and such. I think that's something that could be really exciting. But this is up to $1.88 billion. So again, 1.88, very close, within a week maybe or two, because it is slowing down a lot. 1.9 billion definitely in the cards. 2 billion is pretty much out of the cards at this point because of how much it slowed, but 1.9 billion definitely going to end up being more than 1.9 billion when everything is said and done. Death on the Nile continues to not make anything anywhere, so another financial failure here. Again, very sad because I actually was very surprised by how much I liked the first film in this franchise, and very, very upset that this one was not good. It just was very, very poorly written, and it was very sad to see Kenneth Branagh kind of lose his step a little bit with this film, because he is a talented person who's made a lot of really good films, and it's sad that this was just not one of them. The new film, The Outfit, set to come has come out already. Mark Rylance in the film, Zoe Dutch is in the film, also Dylan O'Brien. So that's actually a cast I really like. Mark Rylance has always been a very understated actor. I've loved seeing him. I got to see him on Broadway when I lived in New York, and he was phenomenal. Got to see him in other films like Bridge of Spies, and he's just a very subtle performer, and I think he does such a great job at that performance and at that role. So just him in that film and in this role makes me excited. Also, Zoe Dutch is in the film as well. I think that she's a talented actress who has not made the best career choice as far as films that she's been a part of. She was in that Vampire Academy film that came out that just was awful. I believe that was her that was in it, but again, I think that she does have some talent. She's been in some other films that I think showcased that capacity that she has. And then Dylan O'Brien, who of course is most well known for the Maze Runner series. I think that again, that casting alone makes me want to go see it. So hopefully, even though it's available in very limited screens, I'll be able to see that before fourth quarter gets too far into swing. Sing 2, again, 13 or 14 weeks now out, and it's still making money. Very impressive stuff. It's actually closing in on $100 million in net gain profit, which I think is more than what anyone could have expected for Sing 2. Again, just based on those original and initial estimates. Uncharted continuing to show itself stronger in the international market than in the domestic, but still doing well enough to be at $337 million, which makes it 37 higher than its break even. So it is now the point of breaking even. And what we can say also is that this film making $10.4 million for China, according to the numbers, this number might be a little bit behind. And also the Batman, which got a release in China, where we're seeing $12.1 million from China there. Just a reminder that both of those films from both of those studios giving 75% of that money, so millions of dollars at this point, to the Chinese Communist Party, which is funding human rights violations, and so therefore wanted to call them out. Getting into some charting before we end things. So again, we like doing some charting here. Charting is a lot of fun. Yeah, we don't have any actual numbers to break down for those first 3 films. I still need to add the names to the films there because, again, I was a little bit of a rush with Baby Thor. But really, there's not much to say without having an actual production budget to go off on. So instead, we'll go off and talk about the Batman. Again, $598 million worldwide means the film is at a $58 million net gain profit. So that will continue to go up. Seems like this is on pace to definitely end at least in that $800 million territory. And if we compare that to what the early projections were for the film based off of that second week's numbers. Right now, I'm projecting the film to make somewhere between $665 and $931, with the average around $798. So I think it's doing well enough to push it to that $800 million. I think that China, specifically, the Communist Party of China, will be the main reason why this film gets into the $800 million range. But $1 billion, I believe, is out of is really kind of out of range at this point. The $337 million of Uncharted is now pushing the film to $22.3 million as far as net gain profit is concerned. Death on the Nile still at $56 million in the red. And the last film to talk about here will be, of course, Spider-Man No Way Home with $1.88 million. Means that the film is at $830 million in net gain profit. 75% of that going to Sony, 25% of that going to Disney. And that 25%, even though that's a lot of money going to Disney, still doesn't quite make up for all of the releases that they had the last year or so being massive financial failures. So, with all that being said, though, what are y'all's thoughts about these numbers? Do you think that the Batman will continue to do even better, especially with the China release? When do you think, or how high do you think that number is going to get? And again, the big story, of course, is this, again, Jujutsu Kaisen 0. Again, I've seen a lot of the love being shown for this film, so what are y'all's thoughts about it? Do you think the film's going to do even better? Do you think it's going to beat Demon Slayer? Do you think it's at least going to be in the same ballpark? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about these films and anything else I mentioned. Again, make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button over on Odyssey. Y'all are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Have a blessed Sunday. Have a blessed Lent, third Sunday of Lent. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my March Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Starting off first with my Patreon members, animation commentator Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Fuzz Aldrin, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Hymir Ari Hymason, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle 79, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Chat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Rosetta Allen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and, of course, Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Also, a shout-out to my Subscribe Star members, starting off with Trent Johnson, Matt317, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Storm Tracker, The R, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B., Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. And a final shout out to my Locals members, Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, and Robert Barnes. And lastly, a huge shout out to my newest Locals member, Brett D90. Thanks, man. Thank you all so very much for being supporters, monthly supporters of the channel. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every single live stream and every single video, please check out the pinned, the very top link in the video description. It is noted as the Willow link there. It'll bring you to basically a link tree of all the different places that you can support on Patreon, Subscribe Star, or on Locals. And also there are other tiers that you can get access to as well, including an Army of Asgard level where you get not only the shout out, but you also get access to a giveaways channel that I have on my Discord, where you get offers of giveaways, or rather you get access to giveaways of 4K titles, Blu-rays, digital codes, all kinds of stuff, steelbooks. It's just, I'm giving away stuff all the time over there, and it's a lot of fun as well. So go check that out if you're interested. There's also the Keeper of the Bifrost level, which is the higher level up than that, and you get everything from the previous tiers. Plus, you get access to a once or twice a month podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you get to ask us Q&A, right? You get to ask us questions, any question that you like, movie or non-movie related. We will answer them once, maybe twice a month. We're trying to work on a second opportunity for us to have a show, but right now it's at least once a month. So again, you get access with that with the Keep of the Bifrost level. And then there is the Chosen of Valhalla level, the very premium level, where you get access to all of those things. Plus, you get to be featured on the channel once a month with me and the other Chosen members, where we talk about movies and stuff. Anything really that the Chosen want to talk about. And it's always a very fun discussion. We usually have about 3.5 hour discussion. So again, that's what you get access to at the Chosen of Valhalla level. Also, you get a free t-shirt during your first month. All you need to do is just let let me know what t-shirt you want from the store and also their size, location, etc. And I send those out anywhere in the world. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Thank you all so very much again for your love and for your support. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.